make sure that goal setting and being intentional with your life is key. You have to intentionally want to move yourself forward. Don't let life happen to you. Take control and move your life forward.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Today we're talking with Andrew from ProAdvisorCoach. He is a life coach, a business coach, and he comes from radio freelance work and transitions into this coaching business later in life. Super excited to talk to you, Andrew. Thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Fantastic. So before we jump too deep in, I think I messed that up. Is it ProAdvisorCoach or ProAdvisorCoach?
ProAdvisorCoach.
ProAdvisorCoach.com is the website address. Andrew can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with ProAdvisorCoach?
I can. I was doing some coaching on my own and really more informally with people that were reaching out to me because I have a background in entrepreneurship, owning businesses. And so I was doing some coaching and I decided that as my career has progressed and I've gotten to a certain age, I was enjoying the coaching, enjoying helping people, setting goals, unlocking and seeing them succeed, that I wanted to be more intentional in what I was doing. So I was doing some writing and some other things. I had a website, and the ProAdvisor guys reached out to me and said, "Hey, we like what you're doing. We'd like you to join us as part of the team." And the opportunity to join them and have some even bigger opportunities to coach people was just it was a great opportunity. So I joined them just as the new year rolled over this year.
Fantastic. So ProAdvisorCoach is a group of coaches or a company that you're still a freelancer, right? You don't necessarily work for them as an employee. You're still a 1099 employee. Or
yes, yeah. It was just an opportunity to have a team around us to be able to do some bigger projects, to be able to do some things where we're able to go on site, where we're able to do workshops, weekend workshops, and some things like that with people we knew we could trust and had similar outlooks and backgrounds. So we've got some tools that we share. We have an assessment tool called the Mind Scan that we're able to leverage as a group, which is it's a great assessment tool. It's a Nobel Prize nominated assessment tool. So there's a couple of things like that were opportunities when I got to join them that were really add-ons for me.
Okay, fantastic. I just wanted to clear up what that was. So you're an independent coach, but you also have this group that you get to lean on and get the additional resources from as well, which means that you also have this group that you can pull other coaches in from.
Yeah, and the advantage of that is just I've been a solopreneur, for a lot of years, and I was actually looking forward to, as much as I like working on my own, there are some things that are missed by not having some level of team, some group of people that you work with, and you're able to bounce ideas off of and get better. And so having some people that are doing some of the similar kind of work, we can share stories about how we're approaching certain things, or, hey, this thing kind of came up. Has anybody heard of this sort of thing? It was just an opportunity for me to become even a better coach.
Working with groups with hard problems is always better. Having different opinions and formulas. Sometimes it's frustrating, but generally you end up with a better result if you can have some collaboration. So I think that's a really interesting way to take the coaching business. You get to maintain individuality, but you also get the team. So I think that's pretty cool stuff. Now,
best of both worlds.
Where are you from, Andrew?
So I grew up in Syracuse, New York. I grew up in Syracuse. I went to college in Ohio, at Ohio University. And then I started a career in radio. And so I was a DJ, but a fairly vanilla. I was not into kissing babies, shaking hands. That was not my strength, the thing I loved. I liked being behind the scenes. So I was a production director, which was the person that puts together commercials and other things that aren't music or DJ related that you hear on the radio station. So I worked in a studio behind the scenes for a number of years. And then in 2000, I worked in a couple of different places. I worked in Cleveland and Akron, Greenville, South Carolina, and then Atlanta. And then in 2005, when I was in Atlanta, I decided that my business I was freelancing outside of my work, doing commercials and other things for radio and TV stations. And when my work outside my job paid me the same money I was making at the job, I didn't really feel like there was any reason to go in anymore. So we made the choice to go out and work on my own. And I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and built a studio in my house. And I've worked out of my studio in my house since 2005. So I'm fortunate. I've got clients doing voiceover work all over the world. Along the way, I'm not a pat in the back guy, but I won an Emmy. That was pretty cool. And I've worked with a lot of different clients and doing a lot of different projects. It's been really cool.
Right.
Being creative. I mean, look, I wear a t-shirt every day, man. I mean, I can't, I'm 50 and I wear a t-shirt every day. So like, I'm still, I've never met to that next point where I've had to wear a button down.
Little Peter Pan syndrome there, maybe with the t-shirt stuff, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Now,
so I did that. Yep.
I want to do now. We're living in a generation right now of this. We're leaving Internet 2.0 and going into Internet 3.0. And I don't really expect a whole lot of people to understand what that means, but I am familiar with the radio and television industry, and I'm really familiar with the time frame that you were in it. You went from reel-to-reel editing, I'm sure, and loop stack editing to nonlinear editing, which is one of the big reasons I got out of music editing. I loved linear editing with the cutting the tapes and all of those things. And nonlinear editing, I saw really quickly that. And if anybody doesn't know what nonlinear editing is, it was the phrase that we came up with when you had computer editing. You could literally drag and drop different scenes all over the place, whereas you didn't have to cut the tape any longer. That was a huge technical change in the industry, right? And you had to adapt to that. And today, people are adapting to those had to adapt to those changes. Like, we don't know when the next TikTok's going to land. We don't know when the next Instagram's going to hit. And as business owners, we have to be aware of where consumers' attention is, right? So did you learn any kind of tips and tricks through that progression of nonlinear, or from linear editing to nonlinear editing, that you use today when dealing with technology?
Well, the amazing thing is you have to remember that. So that was, like in the mid late 90s, right? And so at that point, you're going from computers as a word processor to working on a computer. The ramp to go from, a tape and a grease pencil and a razor blade and editing things together that way, or, using multi-track tape to the computer was so radical, because we weren't working on a computer outside of, you're talking about Windows. What was the Windows 2?
Yeah, it was Windows 3.1, right? Or DOS before that.
Yeah, I mean, literally. So you really were going from, people thought that dial-up AOL was all the rage, right? And so
it was.
It was, but you were, I remember when we got our first computer, we would go home at night and log on and just like look around, because you couldn't believe this internet thing. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, that jump from no internet, no computer to computer was so radical. Like, I think nowadays we're a little more up to speed. Things change. We change lanes as we look at technology. Social media in a lot of cases. I mean, you start with MySpace, and obviously they've evolved so much to where we are now with TikTok, and they're very different, but it's different lanes. They've gotten more interactive for us as users, but you're already moving forward towards something. I think I felt like going from tape block and grease pencil and razor blade was like totally stopped. And all of a sudden I had a sprint to get going, to understand what that technology was. Now that we're moving forward, it's changing lanes. You may have to speed up a little bit, or, look, TikTok is one of those things that I need to embrace more. I'm not, my wife watches it like, she uses it like television. She watches it, and consumes it like television. My college age daughter, she's all over it. My other teenage daughter, she's not into it. And so that's not her thing as much. But you definitely have to be aware of what things are. And you can say, I'm not going to be part of it. And that's, that's your choice. But understand that if you own a business, your consumers are there. And TikTok now, started out as a kid thing, but TikTok now is moms and adults, and they're there. And if you're not embracing and figuring out technology, you are quickly going to be left behind.
Absolutely. And I love technology, and I loved when we went to nonlinear editing and we could do all this new stuff. I was like a kid in a candy store, and I luckily for me, in the 90s, I had an amazing internship that I had, amazing access to hardware and software, but it became very clear to me that the value of editing was going to deplete very quickly over time. And we talked a little bit about this before, voice work and editing and all those things as a freelancer, right? You left radio and became a freelance voice editor, production, all those things. What year was that you left radio completely?
Full-time, 2005.
2005. So this is before Fiverr. So we've devalued all of these products by having this faster, easier way to edit that's more accessible to people, and as computers became more and more accessible. Now we have things like Fiverr and things like that. And now you're a business coach as well. So I'm assuming you've got some pretty good advice on if somebody's in business today and you can buy something that seems like a similar product, say some copywriting from a person on Fiverr for $5 or $10, right? Because Fiverr's all over the place now.
Yep.
How do you tell somebody that's a copywriter today that's charging, $125 a page to have their stuff done, and they're competing against somebody that's making $5 a page? How do you convince them to hold their ground, and how do they show the true value of their product to the end consumer when at the service a written page is a written page to the buyer? One's $5 and one's $125, right? How do you, I say the phrase a lot, I want to buy once and cry once. When I buy the cheap one, I typically buy 3 or 4 of them. Then I still go buy that expensive one at the end of the day. But how do you advise a business owner not to drop their price immediately when they see a competitor that's charging a drastically lower rate?
Yeah, when I first started in the freelance business, I had a friend of mine that was a mentor, still is, that he used to preach rate integrity. And rate integrity was something I didn't quite understand, because when you're starting off on your own, you pretty much just want to take whatever comes your way because you're just happy to make somebody's paying, for your service. Having rate integrity, though, is a long play, because it's so hard to raise your rates once you kind of bottom the barrel yourself. I think that for somebody that's a copywriter, you're not competing. In my voice world, I'm not competing against people that on Fiverr, because those people are providing a different level of service than I am. And so it's not so much about the price I'm charging, it's the value I'm giving. And I think that you have to figure out how to have the value conversation. If you're that copywriter that's used to doing something for $125 or whatever that is, you need to show why the value is there. It's not just putting random words on a page. And look, some people only want to pay $5 or $10, and those random words that are put together in whatever way are enough. Are they going to be an effective message for your business? They may work in some ways, but the
right.
value of what a good, true copywriter brings, or a trained voice actor or a trained whatever, you can get somebody to come in and, that does IT that, can tell you to, control, delete, or reboot, that
right.
counts as IT, right? But when you have to solve a real problem, when you really see something that's there, the what you do and the art of what you bring to it, that's the value. And so I think it's a value conversation rather than a pricing conversation.
Yeah. Have you heard the story of the old man in the ship with the hammer, the old ship mechanic?
Yeah, you're paying for you're not paying for him,
you're not paying for him to hit it with the hammer. You're paying for him to know where to hit it with the hammer, right? And I think that story should be told time and time again. It's so important to know that you're hiring for the expertise, and when you're hiring a copywriter, just for an example, you're paying for research and development and all those things. If you're paying $5, they're not going to do any research, right? They're going to just kind of regurgitate, and they're probably putting an already written article into a word spinner and just handing you back some kind of AI garbage. But
yeah, and you know, paying five, the movie Tommy Boy. Have you seen that movie?
Yes.
You know, like
Absolutely.
I'll crap in a box and put a guarantee on it if you want to. Like,
Right.
and that's what that $5 thing is great. You know, if you want a $5 piece of copy, I'll give you a $5 piece of copy.
Right.
That's what you get.
Yeah.
You know, and I think when you want cheapening things out, I would rather save and have 2 or 3 really good things rather than 12 or 15 things.
Pieces
That's
of
just
junk.
that there's no value in having just a lot of junk. First, I'd rather have a couple of really good value pieces.
Right. So if I'm pricing my product, I should price it at a fair, competitive rate. I should not drop to the bottom. This is the second that you start competing on price. I've said this 1,000 times. If you're competing on price, you've already lost the game. Somebody will somebody will sell it at a loss to put you out of business if that's the game you want to play. And they'll just have more tenacity than you. And then as soon as you're out of the market, they'll raise their prices back up. It happens all the time, right? Amazon.
I mean, that's what Amazon's doing with e-commerce. That's why they're
Absolutely.
putting other vendors out of business, because they're able to sell things at a loss, and you can't go. So what makes my product that I'm selling that much better to say, and I deliver this, the value is this, it works.
Right.
Here's the track record of what I've done. It works. Now, my product isn't for everyone, and that's okay.
Right.
But there's 330 million people in America and what 7 point something billion people on Earth.
Right.
How many do you need to sell to be successful? Find those people that find value in you.
Well, and you got to define success, right? Some people's success is millions of dollars, and some people's success is living on the beach in a van, right? It just depends on what you want to do with your life and what makes you happy, right? I'm envious of. I've got a friend that I went to high school with, lives on a van in Pensacola, and he plays guitar at local bars every night of his life, I think. And he's one of the happiest people I've ever met in my life, right? So at the same note, I've got friends that are millionaires and they're constantly stressed. So success has to be something that you define yourself. It can't be some kind of picture that you've seen and it's like, oh, that's what success is. It's just simply not that true.
Yeah. For me, it was never chasing money. It was always about doing something I like and doing it really, really well, and
Right.
money followed.
Right.
I never had a dollar goal in mind for me. I think at one point, radio doesn't pay, a lot of money. And, I had a job at one point. I was making $37,000 a year, and my wife and I just bought our first house, and we were, scraping together to do that. And I had a buddy over, and he managed a propane store, and he was making $85,000. And $85,000 to me felt like it might as well have been $1 million to
Right.
me at 37,000. And I thought, man, if I ever make $85,000 a year, I've made it, man. That's going to be it. And then, you get to 85,000, you're like, oh, well, huh.
I'm
Isn't that
still
interesting?
broke.
So yeah, you buy a bigger house, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. It's, I explain to my kids all the time, I think happiness is really derived when you live beneath your means. It's been, somebody told me early on before I went out on my own, they said, there's live above your means, within, and beneath your means. And living above your means obviously is spending more than you make. Living within is spending everything you make. Living beneath is having money left over. And those times when clients come and go, and if a freelancer's watching this, whatever they do, and you have times when you're hitting home runs and you're making money. Don't buy a boat.
Right.
Don't buy a boat. If you want to
There's
save
only
up for the boat, fine.
two good days when you buy a boat. The day you buy it and the day you sell it. Every day in between.
Yeah,
is
as somebody who
miserable.
bought a boat and sold a boat, I can honestly tell you I was happy when I sold it.
Yeah.
But living a cash life and living beneath your means was, like, to me, that was a level of success, right? I mean, when I'm able to plan a vacation for the summer with my family and pay cash for it, like that to me, and I don't go to we're not flying to France, but like for us to be able to do that and not have to overextend myself to do things, that is a level, that was a marker of success for me.
Fantastic. So now you're known, you're in the industry, music industry, entertainment industry. And in that industry, there's the phrase, the show must go on, right? So you've got a reputation of the guy that just gets shit done, right? And which is a very, very important set of tools. But, you know, one of my favorite entrepreneurs, Marcus Lemonis, always says, you know, it's the last dollar that really makes that thing shine. It's that last little bit. And so frequently when you're just getting the job done, sometimes you got to cut some corners and things like that. With the mentality of get the job done, get it done on time, but get it done to the highest level of expectations. That highest level of expectations sometimes is lost, right? We get it to 98% and like, good enough, man. We got it done. It's done, right? How do you maintain the mentality of, no, it's not done until we're perfect in your personal life? And how do you get a business owner that you're coaching to convince them to say, no, the reason it's not working the reason it's not working at 100% is because you never got it to 100%. You only got it to 98%.
You know, it's funny. I could answer that a couple of ways. So, you know, I also own an apparel brand, and I think early on we were really set on having a great product, but we realized that if we waited for it to be perfect, it was never going to be in the marketplace. Things are never to a perfect point. So there has to be some level of moving forward. We could paralyze ourselves by waiting to get to that perfect point, because I don't know where perfect was or where it is or whatever. So I think when we rolled out our the shorts that we make initially, I would say that they were probably 88% good. Okay. And we went to market and they're pretty good. People liked them, but there were some improvements we made. So we've iterated from there and made them better. Now, you know, I would say they're probably right around 99% good. And are there things we can do to continue to make them better? Absolutely. But it's I think perfection is one of those hard things because I don't know if you can ever really reach 100%, you know, and I don't know if that surprises you or that was the answer you expected me to have. I've learned over time that people do a lot of planning. They think they're going to get to a point where they're going to be ready to jump or they're going to be ready to be perfect or whatever. Right. And that point, you just never reach that point. So
perfect is subjective, right? That last 1% is a subjective thing. It's not like, what is the perfect pair of shorts? I'm sure that's different to everybody, right?
Yes. You know, I think we had an idea of what we wanted the fit to be like and for them to be effective. And so we make a swim short that has a liner instead of a netting. So guys tend to chafe. And so it prevents that from happening. So you know, early on, I think we changed material. We changed the length of certain things. And I think you have to be willing to not say that you're going to stand pat on something. So when I do a project now, it's very good. Do I ever send a project and go, man, that is perfect? No, I don't know if that's ever happened.
Yeah.
You know,
I think you got to get to that point where is that last bit of squeeze worth the juice that you're going to get, right? And a lot of times,
to be honest, I don't know if the juice is ever going to come out, man. And you know, and in the meantime, you know, you're gonna give up really good and not get something done. I think, you know, I took a course with Seth Godin, and Seth Godin has a thing he talks about shipping it. You have to ship. It's better just to ship. It's better to ship something at 90% than to try to figure out how to get it to 100. Like ship at 90 and then further iterate, further push yourself to that next point where do you get it to 92 or 93 or 95. But get it out there. If you got a book you want to write, get it done and get it out there. And you can always improve and edit and do things. But I think people are afraid to ship it out, to get it out, to get things out there into the marketplace to see what ultimately the market's going to decide whether it's something that is worthwhile, but get it out there.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's good advice. I like both sets of advice. I think we should always be looking for that last bit, but in a product or a service, if you get to the point where, if I squeeze it any harder, I'm not going to get any significant growth out of it. I think you're at that 100% mark, right? You're not going to get, could you tweak it a little bit here and there? Probably. But every tweak then potentially loses your market as well. So it's really,
especially if you're waiting for me, you can iterate towards perfect. It's just, you know, get something out there to start with, and then you can tweak it to get to that.
Right.
You can take those little steps to the next point up where you're closer to where you need to be.
Yeah. I think his point is to never stop trying to get perfect, not necessarily
Yes.
to get to the perfect, right? But never stop trying to get there. There
Yeah,
are
I
things
think satisfaction, right? Like he doesn't want to be satisfied with where you are. And I think that is what I'm talking about. Continue to iterate and make those things, make those improvements that get you to the next point. Never stop thinking you can't strive to that, but don't let it hold you back from moving forward.
Right. Now, you said, and I wanted to get that question out because I want people to be, if they wanted to work with you, how would they contact you?
Yeah, so you can, I've got email at Andy at ProAdvisorCoach.com. Happy to reach out and chat. You don't even need to be thinking like, is Andy the coach for me? If you have a question about business or whatever, I'm happy to connect and answer and chat with people in any way,
Okay.
from the episode here or any questions. As I transition through some different things, going from radio, going to apparel, launching some different things, and then moving to coaching. I've pivoted a couple of times. So some people have questions about that, and I'm happy to answer those things too.
Right. And then if you were to take on a new client tomorrow, who would kind of your ideal client be? What position in business would that person be at that you think that you would help them put the most fuel on their fire?
Well, I think that, first of all, coaching is one of those things where people don't always think they need one. And frankly, when you think about in athletics, great athletes have coaches. They need somebody to help set goals for them and then build a plan to get there. So coaching is a really valuable thing for people that are founders, executives in all sorts of fields that want to move their business or their career or their life to the next point. And so people that are, I work with founders now. I work with several executives. I work with some attorney partners in some large firms that were looking to that have had a level of success, and they realize that to get to that next point, whether it's that next million in billing or another client load, they needed to have somebody that was going to work with them on a plan, and then set goals and then build a plan to reach those goals. So right now I'm working with people in a number of different industries, a couple in media, a couple of founders in DTC brands, and then some attorneys as well, executives that are moving on their way up.
Wonderful. So I do have one last question for you, and it goes back to the goal setting, right? You were telling a story that's wildly similar to some of my thought processes in my head when I was a younger guy. And that was, hey, I was making 35, and if I could make 85, my world would be great. And I remember thinking, man, if I could just make $1,000 a week, right, I would have, everything would be perfect, right? One paycheck would go to rent, one paycheck would go to cars and food, like I had it all planned out. And then I got there, I surpassed that, but I made too low of a goal for myself. And when I got to a place of being comfortable, I kind of stopped trying to grow any further. I'm like, whoa, I made it, right? Well, the world keeps moving, right? And $100,000 10 years ago is not $100,000 a year today, right? They're drastically different payrolls over the past 10 years. What do you think the danger of setting too low of a goal is? And I've stopped making goals. I call them milestones now because I'm like, well, my only goal is to die a happy man, right? And so until then, I have a whole bunch of milestones. How do you advise people to, when they're making goals, to make sure that they're reflecting on those regularly and changing them and upping the bar? Because it's a dangerous game to set a goal, get to it, and stop.
Yeah, it is funny. So my professional goals when I was in radio was I wanted to be in a major market, top 10 market by the time, at some point in my career, and I wanted to work for myself. And so I reached the top 10 market at 28, and then I went to work for myself at 34, and all of a sudden here I am, I've reached my professional goals. And
Right.
In terms of, it wasn't a money thing, but I think, all of a sudden here I am, I've reached these things at 34. What's in front of me now? I worked, I'm going to divert a little bit, just tell you the story that my last radio job, I worked in hip hop, and one of the things that was a really big lesson for me there was I thought people were unfocused when I worked there because everybody had side hustles going on. And I realized that what they had that I didn't have was they removed the blinders from their eyes. They saw a lot of different opportunity all around them. So I think once I saw this opportunity all around me, I started setting what you're talking about, milestones for myself. I saw opportunities, and I would set different things to keep myself engaged and interested in things. I mean, I think you've got to review goals every year. Or if you're working with a coach, you're going to do that more often. But you need to set goals for yourself, write them down, and actually, somebody has to hold you accountable for those goals, because it's easy to let yourself off the hook. At least I found that for myself. So I work with a coach that holds me accountable for goals, because in the end, as much as I like to say I can hold myself fully to that, when I work out in the morning. I don't know if you exercise or not, if you're into that. If you're out working by yourself, if you're out running, who's going to hold you to the fact that, you decide to walk for a mile instead of run, right? I mean, unless you got a partner with you, it's like, hey, let's go. So I think having an accountability partner in some way for your goals makes it, you got to write them down, define those goals, and then build a plan to do it, and then review those goals. And I think you've got to keep moving towards them, and play not just, goals that are 6 months out or a year out, but are 5 and 10 year goals. Like for me, I have a long-term goal of, I want to be able to have my house here in South Carolina, and I want to have a house up in New England, a place on a lake, a small little place that's just out of the way, that my wife and I can go to, and we can spend summers up there where it's quiet, and I can kayak and read books and do some work. So that's my long-term goal, my 10-year goal. And that's out there for me, on top of goals that I have at 6 months or a year from now.
And the goals are way different today than they used to be. I think the important part here is that setting goals and achieving goals is a practice that you have to, do it. If you want to get further in life, you have to adopt this new practice of setting goals and achieving goals. And I recommend doing that in small steps first, and then grow. If you wake up every morning just saying, hey, I'm just going to live my life, and what happens, that's fine. You have a great existence, and that's great.
Right.
If you want to accomplish something bigger and greater, I'm sure that some people do it accidentally, but that's not the case for me. I have to really set a goal.
Otherwise you're letting the river take you. The river's going to take you where it's going to take you, right? I think you need to be intentionality is really a key to success. You have to intentionally want to do something and move forward and do things, and set spots for yourself to move forward and do things. It's that letting life happen to you is a way to live life. But I don't think in the end, you'll look back and say, I think you'll feel like you left things on the table, because people really have a lot in them. I've not yet coached anyone that doesn't have more in them, and they just haven't been able to unlock it yet and move it to the next point, because they're allowing life to happen to them. You got to dictate some things for your future and for your, for where you are and where you want to go.
Absolutely. Now, and that was going to be my last question, but what you just said, I think, is so important. And I believe that everybody has more in them than what they're tapping out. Even, I bet even Steve Jobs probably could have gotten more out if he could have pushed a little bit harder, although he did phenomenal things. But not everybody believes that in themselves, right? A lot of people in the world are going through the motions, and they're working at a gas station, or they're doing a job that they don't really care about, and they feel like that's what they're supposed to be, or that's where they're supposed to be at, or that's all that they're worth. And they're absolutely wrong. Yeah. But how do you convince that person that's, working overnights in a gas station, and they're a little overweight right now, and they're, they don't see any opportunity. They don't even know, they can't even figure out how do they get out of this particular, and I would call it a trap that they're in, right? The low income trap, right? It's a hard one to get out of, and it's a hard mentality to break somebody of. Is that something they have to come into on their own, or can you coach somebody out of that mentality?
Yeah, it's hard. I made very little money when I first got out of college. I mean, I think my first job was, $17,000 a year. And in 1993, that was not a lot of money. I lived in a basement apartment, and for me, I think some people in the situation you're talking about that work overnights at a gas station that may be a little overweight, there may be other issues that are going on that have gotten to a certain point, they may have had a kid. They may have some things that have come along. How do you work out of that? there's a level of grit that has to come in to yourself. You have to want to get out of that situation. I worked multiple jobs. So, I worked during the week at my $17,000 a year job, and I worked weekends at an hourly job to pick up extra money to pay debt off that I had. And for me, it was always looking for being open for opportunities and not saying no to chances to do other things. And I think you have to put yourself out there. I've thought about that. If I was, same thing with you. If you were suddenly transported and you were working at a gas station and you were working that job and you had to do something, how would you pull yourself back out of that? Now you have a track record of success in your head, knowing you can do other things. But if you haven't, you've got to find, the belief in yourself is tough, man. I mean, and that's, can anybody do it? Yes. I fully believe that if you are able to assess and look at your strengths and skills and say, I'm good at this. And look, if you're overweight and you work at a gas station, take a walk every day. One of my things I tell people that is one of my secrets to my success, or whatever that it is I get up and I work out every morning. I get up at 4:30 every morning and I work out with a group of guys. And for me, that workout, that 45-minute boot camp or a run or whatever I do, puts me up for my day up 1-0, right? It's a win. It's a win first thing in the morning. So no matter how the rest of my day goes, I'm not over. And having over days, those are hard to have day after day after day. You've got to figure out a way to string together even small wins. So when you go to bed, you can go, you know what? A lot went wrong today. However, I got up this morning and walked, and that neighbor said hi to me, and that was pretty cool. That was a good day. And then figure out ways to build on that. You're not going from gas station overnight to, owning Camping World, but you have to figure out ways to take little incremental things every day. One step forward is one step further than you were yesterday, and play the long game, and things will get better for you. You just got to keep looking forward. The whole thing is you drive through the windshield, not the rear view mirror. And you've got to keep that focus forward and take a step every day.
Yeah. I can tell you, I remember a night where I had a really bad night delivering pizzas at 16 years old, and I didn't make enough money to fill my gas tank. So I literally slept in the car that night behind the pizza joint, because they would give me a $10 loan and be when my shift started, but they wouldn't give me a $10 loan when my shift ended. I didn't have enough money to fill my tank. So I just slept in the car that night so I could wake up in the morning, pick up a shift, and get my $10 loan so that I could pay for gas, so that I could go deliver more pizzas and make a couple more dollars, right? So it's possible, and you can have nothing and get there. It is hard. It's not easy at any stretch of the game, but
it's not easy at all. And I'm not trying to minimize it at all. There are people that really have a ton against them. Attitude is a lot of it too. You've got to believe somewhere in yourself that you're meant for something more. And that doesn't mean you're gonna own a mansion, but more is just a spot of comfort, knowing that you're going to eat and you can put gas in the car when it comes time to it. And you feel like you've got forward momentum in your life, and you've got to keep your mind open and your eyes open for opportunity, and be willing to say, sometimes somebody's going to ask you something and be like, but you go, yeah, you know what? Yeah. I think one of the big things for me is gratitude. I think if you're thankful and put gratitude out into the world, that I'm not thankful and do things for other people because I want things to come back to me, but they do. It's just the way the universe works. And I think if you're somebody that's a giving of yourself, of the abilities you have, and you share and you put those things out in the world, for however it works, it comes back to you. You don't do it because of that, but it is a result of that.
Absolutely. And on the total flip side of that whole thing, if you work overnight in a gas station, that makes you happy because you like talking to the quirky people that come in the middle of the night, and you're going home and you're a happy person, keep doing it. Totally okay. Whatever makes you happy with your life, right? But if you're there and you're miserable and you don't like it, start changing something today. You have the power to do it. So
you do have stuff inside you that you do have the ability. If that's what you want to do, awesome. If you want more, you can do more. That's within you.
Yes. Andy, thank you so much for your time today. I had a blast. Is there anything you would like to leave for the audience before we go?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and to share. Hopefully somebody gets something out of it and realize that, whether they go with a coach, call me or reach out to me or not, but make sure that goal setting and being intentional with your life is key. You have to intentionally want to move yourself forward. Don't let life happen to you. Take control and move your life forward.
And my advice, and I'm not a coach by any stretch, I am a boxing coach, but I'm not a business coach. If you do not have a mentor in your business, then you should be looking for a coach. You should have at least one 100%. Of the two, if not both of them. Have a good mentor or a good coach, one of those two, to keep you accountable and moving forward at all times. It's very 100%. Important stuff. Thanks, Andy, for your time today. I very much appreciate it.
Have a great day.
That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. The way you join that line is ask me any question about business or technology. If I don't know the answer, I'll do the research. I've got a giant community that I can ask, and I will get you back an absolutely free, unbiased answer. Get to work.